Hi, everyone. This is Rita Desnoyers-Garcia of Becoming Awake and the Calm Mom Alliance and the Becoming Awake YouTube channel. And I wanted to talk to you today about what do you do when you're stuck in an emotional pattern. We've all been there. First, I just want to remind you, if you do like this video, please like it, subscribe, and share it with people. I'm trying to grow my channel. This is the way to do it. And I want more and more women to be able to have access to videos like this. So the last video I made was what an emotional pattern is. And so I'm going to go over that briefly. So an emotional pattern is just something that you notice where emotions come up as a reaction to something that's happening in your life. And you notice that it's kind of the same set of emotions or an emotion that's coming up over and over again. For instance, every time you get a phone call from a certain person, you get angry, for instance, or when you're driving, you notice you're really tense. Or maybe when you're weeding in the garden, you are feeling frustrated. So whatever it is, it could be almost anything. And we have lots of emotional patterns. It's sort of what we do as human beings. And emotional patterns often really connect to when we were younger and, maybe something happened and we got an association between an event and a reaction, and then that gets repeated over and over and over again. It doesn't have to be traumatic events. It could be lots of different things, but a lot of times it is traumatic events. So a lot of times, people right now is kind of trendy to look at what your emotional patterns are, if you know what they are, and then to change them if you can, shift them, so that you can have more flexibility in how you respond to what's going on in your life. You have more freedom. That sounds really great, right? So maybe you're not so tense all the time. Maybe you're able to see things differently when you're not in an emotional pattern. So those are all great reasons to want to change your emotional pattern. And we talked about that in the last video. But today we're going to talk about what happens if you're stuck in that emotional pattern and you can't seem to change it. What are some things that you can do? So the first thing I want to say is we've all been there. I've been stuck in emotional patterns. So I just want to say that this is not abnormal. It's pretty common. It's nothing to really fret about, to make another emotional pattern about. And then the other thing I want to say is the first thing I do when I'm stuck in an emotional pattern is just to acknowledge that I feel stuck, because that is also another emotional pattern, is to feel stuck all the time. So just acknowledging this is how I feel right now and allowing yourself to feel it in your body and notice where it's located. And just let it be there. I know I've repeated myself a million times about this, but I think it bears repeating about how to process emotions, at least the way I do it. And just simple things like that, just sitting for 5 minutes a day and allowing yourself to connect with your body and feel what's coming up really helps to process those emotions. And you may notice that the emotion feels more intense because you're paying attention to it and you're not trying to stop it or dismiss it or avoid it or numb it. It's going to feel more intense, and that's okay. You'll be okay. And then as you're feeling it, you can just be aware of the sensations. What are the sensations in your body as the emotion comes up? Because that's what emotions are, right? Emotions are sensations in your body. And as we just learned from my friend Ashley Jangro, who works with moms around helping their kids feel emotions and process their anxiety, her catchphrases, which I love, is emotions are not emergencies. I love that because it puts perspective on when we're feeling emotions. They're not emergencies. You want to tend to them, right? You don't want to ignore them, because they are telling you something, but just because you're having an emotion doesn't mean you are in an emergency. So I just love that. Thank you so much, Ashley. And if you haven't checked out her work, go to Ashley Jangro, go to the interview where I interview her and you can find out all about her. The other thing I like to do when I feel like I'm in an emotional pattern, besides process the emotion, which is really important, excuse me, there's something in my eye, is to slow everything down. A lot of times I feel like the stress of an emotional pattern or having the emotional pattern of stress. And one of the first things I do is I slow down. So that means literally physically slowing down my movements, taking a breath, slowing down my breath, coming to center, taking things one moment at a time, one step at a time. That's the only way we can live, really. We try to live faster than that, but it's only one breath at a time that we can live. And when we do, you'll find it's so much richer than when you're trying to skim across the top all the time. You know what I mean? When you're trying to do 15 things at once and you're racing in your brain. So if you've slowed down, if you've taken some nice breaths to center yourself, if you're remembering to just take it one step at a time, one moment at a time, one breath at a time, if you notice the sensations in your body, maybe you've been doing that all along, and you know this is normal. The other thing that I try to remember is maybe it's just not time yet for those things to go away or fade. In other words, and I learned this intuitively through my own work, and then I seen it in plain black and white with my friend David Newkirk, who's an amazing business coach and Reiki master. If you don't check his stuff out, Ethos Consulting, I think that's what it's called, but David Newkirk, you can look him up. He did a presentation for a group that I belong to around the stages of change and of personal change. And one of the things that really confirmed for me is that change does kind of happen in stages. And when things don't change, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means you're just a different stage of that. Like you're not at the stage where it's changing yet. It's just like in preparation, you're like, you go through different stages and then things happen. So another thing to remember, to keep in mind, is if the emotional pattern is just not going away the way you want it to in your timeline, it may be that you're just in a stage where it's not there yet. It's not soup yet, as my friend says, Kathy Kirk says, it's not soup yet. And to be patient. Doesn't mean you blow it off. It just means this is where I am. I'm accepting where I am. Loving where I am. Having compassion for myself. Not to speed things along, although that could be a byproduct of doing that, but literally just to accept where you are. If you can accept where you are in your life, just doing that, just accepting where you are, that's a game changer. And don't take my word for it. Just try it. Try it for like a day or a week. Just accept where you are, wherever you are, and see how you feel. It doesn't mean you have to like where you are. It doesn't mean you have to condone where you are. It doesn't mean you have to agree with where you are. It just means stop fighting it. Let go of the fight, the battle of self-improvement, the battle of I have to be somewhere else in order to be happy, the battle of I'm not good enough, I have to work harder. So if you let go of that can help the whole thing kind of just move along. And then you can be accepting wherever you are in the process. Acceptance is huge. It's huge. I'm just telling you from my own life. I know this. And from seeing my clients start to accept things, it just changes your physiology. It changes your perspective on everything. And then, of course, as your perspective changes, you start to have a different relationship with life. You start to see life as more congruent with you because you're congruent with it. And it's so much more fun, so much more fun. So let me give you an example. So one of my hobbies is to do stand-up comedy. I love it. I haven't done it in a couple of years because of the COVID, but I just went back last night. I got invited to do a set at a show, and it was so great. And one of the things I noticed was that I didn't have the usual nervousness and panic that I've had so many times before doing this. Like when I first started, my whole week was consumed with the stress of knowing that I was going to be on a stage. It's, on a Thursday night. It would start the Thursday before. For a whole week, stress, panic, nervousness. And I was rehearsing constantly in my head as a strategy to prepare myself for this. And I'm not saying don't do that. It's what I needed at the time, and it worked. And of course, right before it, I went to the club, totally nervous. Was in the back of the club, hearing the comics going on, like more nervous, more panicky. At one point, my brain just like blanked out. I didn't know what I was even going to say. I couldn't remember anything. And I thought, how am I going to go up there? I can't remember anything that I was going to say. And then I just decided I'm going for it. My friends are in the audience. They're going to love me no matter what. I can love myself no matter what, even if I totally bomb. And I went up there, and somehow my brain let in a little trickle of information, which was the first joke. People laughed, I relaxed, and then I was able to do the rest of the set. And it was an amazing experience that I had to repeat. It was so amazing, such a magical, magical night for me, that I thought, I want to do more of this. This was like, it was horrendously scary, but once I did it, I was just like, let me back on the roller coaster. And a roller coaster it was for many, many, many times. And I thought, when am I not going to be so petrified of this? I started to get impatient because I was in the emotional pattern of doing a performance and being so stressed out and anxious about it and nervous. And I thought about, why is that? This is not uncommon. Many, many people are frightened of this. This is not like specific to me, but I thought back in my life about why it was so extreme for me. And, I thought about little times in my life as a kid where I put myself out there and maybe didn't get the response I wanted, or maybe got laughs, but I wasn't going for laughs, or maybe I got a response from someone that made me feel like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that. Or now they think I'm thinking so highly of myself, and I actually don't feel so highly about myself. So a lot of these emotional patterns, like I said, start when you're a kid, and then you just build on them. I thought about all of my embarrassing moments in a performance over the years. So of course, I didn't think of all the successes. I just thought of all the embarrassments, because that's what our brain does. We perseverate on all the negative, right, instead of the positive. So one of the goals that I made for myself was to remember more of my act. That was a goal. And then the other goal I made for myself was to have more fun, just relax and have more fun. Because I also knew that if I was able to relax a little and have more fun, my jokes would be funnier, because I would be up there not as a nervous person making the audience feel nervous, but a relaxed person having fun, and everyone else could relax and have fun too. So I did a couple of different things, and you can apply this to your situation, whatever your emotional pattern is. One of the things I did was I remembered that I'm a terrible predictor or my mind is a terrible predictor of all the details of things. Like, things rarely go the way I think they're going to go or want them to go, but I know the overall picture will be okay. I'm going to come out of it somehow. So I try to be open to what's going to happen. And one of the things I noticed when I was doing performing was that it kind of felt like a party where I was one of the hosts of the party, and I was just there making people laugh at the party, as part of the party entertainment and the host. And my job was to have fun and have these jokes, and people will laugh and they'll have a good time. And that's what it's about. It's like basically inviting your friends over to a party where you're the entertainment. And so it's all friendly. And I know that in reality, when you're doing comedy, there are going to be times when it's not people and they may not even like what you're saying. They may heckle you, or worse. But that rarely ever happened to me, like almost never. Like I can't even think of a time where that happened, right? So those were pieces of evidence that I would focus on when I was practicing for a show. This is a party. It's super cash. The food is casual. The drinks are casual. The environment is casual. You don't even dress up for it. Like half the comics wear ripped jeans and sneakers and stuff. So it's really casual. And I started to think of it as like, we're just having a party here. Come on in for the party. That helped a lot to help me not be so stressed, was reframing the whole situation and gathering evidence to support that. And then making the goal to just be more relaxed helped me focus on how can I relax more. And one of the things I do or did, and I even did last night, was I literally make a joke about being nervous. I made the joke is I used to be nervous, and then that I tell the joke. But before it was, I am so nervous, right? So I brought it into the act. It was like a confession. It was a way to kind of, yeah, I look nervous. I'm going to tell you why, and this is what I'm doing, and this is the joke. And then people relate because everyone has felt nervous, and everyone, most people in the audience, when they're watching you, a regular audience member is going, wow, I can't believe she's up there. I'd be so nervous doing that. So that was another strategy that I decided to employ that really helped. If I could kind of confess out in the open through a joke that I'm nervous, then that will help me relax. And it did. It literally did. And I literally had a joke about how to be not nervous. So I was just like, this is great. This is great. Still, I would get nervous. And I decided I'm just going to be okay with it. And I talked to a lot of comics about it, and some of them still get nervous. Some of them don't get nervous at all, but they said, look, it's okay to be nervous because that's your body's way of preparing you for performance. You need that adrenaline running through you to perform. It helps you stay alert and on target, so you're not falling asleep, so that you remember things. So a little bit of that adrenaline is part of performance. It's kind of part of being out there. And so I started to accept it. I started to accept that sometimes I'm just going to feel this. And what I noticed was that the nervousness that was the hardest for me was all the buildup up to the show. It wasn't the night of the show or right before you go on. I completely accept that there's going to be adrenaline there because you need that to perform, like most people do. I think I do better with a little bit of adrenaline. But the week before, I didn't really want to suffer through all that. So what I noticed is that kind of disappeared this time. It just wasn't there. I totally got why people were nervous. Some of the people I was working with were very nervous. The more experienced people were very relaxed about the whole thing. Like, it's just another gig to them. It's not, they want to do their best, but they're not like sweating it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm where I finally wanted to be, which was I got my jokes. I know what they are. They were written from years before. I know that they work. I've tried them out. And I'm just going to get up there and do my 10 minutes and have fun with it. And did I get nervous right before? I actually felt more excitement. Yes, nervousness too, but I just did what I do, which is to move my body and allow it to flow and then use it. And I got up there and I had a really good time. I think I did pretty well. I got some great feedback. Could I have made it better? Of course. That's why you go up and you do it again. But I noticed that the pattern had dissolved. And I think a big part of that was that I gave myself a break and a lot of compassion on how that's going to go in terms of a timeline. I really just was like, it's going to go when it's going to go. It's going to change when it's going to change. And then it changed because I wasn't pushing it to change. And I realized, I kind of like looked back and went, yeah, that was my goal, was to be more relaxed and have fun. And here I am, more relaxed and having fun. So will I have this pattern come up again? Maybe, but it's okay. It's okay. There's not a lot of attachment to having it be a different way. And I think that's really the message I want to send to you about what do you do when you're stuck in your emotional pattern. You accept where you are. You don't get attached to being in any particular place. You relax. And eventually it's going to shift, but you're going to change your relationship to the whole thing. So that's the message of today. I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, please just put them in the comment section, or you can join the Calm Mom Alliance on Facebook and put your questions there. You can always go to my website, becomingawake.com, and contact me. And of course, if you're interested in really diving into the self-compassion part of this, which really is a game changer, you can get the Self-Compassion Project, which is available on Amazon and Goodreads and Barnes & Noble and on my website. So, and right now it's only $2.99 on Kindle on Amazon. So you want to take advantage of that. So I hope you have an amazing day. I'm doing this on a Friday, so have an amazing weekend. And until next time, bye-bye. Take care.